I still view him as someone who could realistically carve out a spot as the QB2. And if he isn't given that role despite performing well, the only logical explanation is that the Browns are deliberately holding him back to prevent fans from demanding Shedeur Sanders too soon. Watching him on the field, it was striking how undersized he appeared, bootleg after bootleg, but the Eagles' defense seemed fully prepared. Each time he rolled out, there was no one open, forcing him to simply throw it away. In the end, it added up to a string of frustrating incompletions. Kevin Stefanski played with fire when he declared Shedeur Sanders injured, all while refusing to disclose the extent of the supposed setback. His carefully calculated ploy to keep Sanders sidelined is unraveling quickly, especially as Dillon Gabriel, his chosen replacement, shows glaring flaws. For context, Gabriel himself was recovering from injury, but now that Sanders is stuck on the sidelines, Stefanski is desperately pushing him forward. Yet, as the joint session with the Eagles proved, Gabriel is not the quarterback to seize command. Bootlegs kept coming, but receivers stayed blanketed, leaving Gabriel with nothing but throwaways. Eagles analyst Ross Tucker reported on Gabriel's struggles during the behind-the-scenes session. He noted that Shedeur Sanders, despite the hype, looked smaller in person and had difficulty delivering passes under pressure. The running backs offered little relief, and the offense sputtered. For Sanders, the message is clear. He must prove himself if he hopes to be the Browns' long-term answer. Still, the bigger issue is Gabriel. It's becoming painfully obvious he isn't the solution. He's being used as a shield to keep Sanders off the field. But after such a feeble showing, and with Stefanski labeling the next game a pivotal test, everything is set to unravel. Gabriel faces a critical proving ground, yet nothing about his play suggests he can silence the critics. The numbers tell the story. In that joint session, Gabriel had 5 reps, 1 completion, and 4 sacks, a miserable 20% completion rate. If he can't function in practice, how can he be trusted in a real game? Stefanski pushed Sanders aside to spotlight Gabriel, but the writing is already on the wall. When Gabriel falters, Sanders will rise again, and the consequences of Stefanski's gamble will be impossible to ignore. Let's be honest. Very few people believe Dillon Gabriel is a superior quarterback to Shedeur Sanders. Draft position aside, if the Browns are the only organization convinced otherwise, then it speaks more to their decades-long failures in quarterback evaluation than it does to Gabriel's talent. I never root against a player, but I'd be shocked if Gabriel ever becomes a legitimate starter for Cleveland. Now, with Sanders' supposed injury dominating headlines, the controversy has reached national debate. Stephen A. Smith has stepped directly into the fire, accusing Stefanski of fabricating the entire narrative. According to Stephen A., the oblique injury is nothing but smoke and mirrors, a convenient excuse to suppress Sanders' rise without facing backlash. He even suggests this charade might not be Stefanski's doing alone, but part of a larger directive from ownership, with the coach serving as the messenger. Stephen A. pointed to the official release of the depth chart as the smoking gun, proof that everything he's argued was correct. The Browns never intended to give Sanders a fair shot at quarterback 2. From Stephen A.'s perspective, the Browns never truly intended to give Shedeur Sanders the opportunity to ascend through the depth chart. Had he been allowed to build upon his earlier breakout performance, it would have been nearly impossible to justify keeping him off the field. Instead, a conveniently timed injury surfaced just as critical decisions loomed, effectively removing him from the conversation. When Kevin Stefanski told the media his focus was on developing all quarterbacks equally, it sounded fair until the depth chart dropped and exposed a different reality. Sanders had slipped, confirming the very suspicions analysts had been voicing. For Stephen A., this wasn't merely a football decision, it was politics in its purest form. The timing was far too precise to dismiss as coincidence, with ownership subtly pulling strings while Stefanski served as the public mouthpiece. This had little to do with health or competition. It was about maintaining control, ensuring Sanders' momentum never grew into an undeniable movement that would force management's hand. The result was a calculated maneuver that left fans skeptical, critics outraged, and Stephen A. convinced the truth was glaringly obvious. He argued that had Sanders suited up this past weekend, logging another 45-plus snaps and matching or surpassing his previous numbers, the team would have had no choice but to elevate him. Instead, the injury narrative and the release of the depth chart worked hand in hand to derail his rise. Stephen A. directly challenged the Browns, emphasizing that being a fifth-round pick shouldn't automatically consign Sanders to the bottom rung, especially after his eye-catching preseason performances. In his view, placing Sanders fourth wasn't about merit, but about a preordained plan decided long before training camp even began. The depth chart wasn't a reflection of performance. It was proof of a pre-existing agenda. Consider this. Sanders was positioned at quarterback 4 before a single snap of true competition had even taken place. It wasn't you competed and this is where you stand. It was this is where you'll stay regardless of what you prove. That's not evaluation, it's orchestration. This quarterback saga is now far larger than simple performance metrics. Dillon Gabriel, despite inconsistency and lackluster showings, has been elevated into prominence, while Sanders is demoted, sidelined, and, most concerning of all, kept out under questionable circumstances. What was sold as a fair fight for QB2 increasingly appears to be a manufactured effort to suppress Sanders' trajectory. The timing of the injury announcement alongside the depth chart release raises glaring red flags. Gabriel, without the production to justify promotion, is thrust into the spotlight, while Sanders' development is intentionally stunted. This shift feels less like football competition and more like a carefully crafted narrative designed to keep a promising talent from rising too fast. Fans and analysts alike have voiced their frustration with Stephen A. Smith among the loudest, calling out the Browns for manipulating the depth chart. The reality is becoming clearer by the day. This isn't about competition, it's about control. Sanders' potential is being deliberately restrained while the status quo is preserved under the guise of development. The true test lies ahead. If Gabriel falters in live action, the Browns will be forced to confront the consequences of their choices, and Sanders' chance to reclaim momentum may arrive sooner than expected. Until then, the bigger picture dominates. One quarterback elevated without merit, another suppressed despite promise. So I ask you, is Dillon Gabriel truly the right choice to carry the Browns forward, or is he merely a placeholder, a pawn in a larger political game designed to keep Sanders from ascending too soon? Are we witnessing genuine competition or a strategy to suppress a rising star? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop your opinions in the comments below. Let's break down what just unfolded, because Chris Carter, Hall of Famer, razor-tongue analyst, and lifelong unforgiving grader just executed a full 180 degrees on Shedeur Sanders after one preseason appearance, a single showcase, a handful of drives, a few throws under fire, and suddenly the same man who once questioned whether Shedeur even deserved a chair in an NFL quarterback room is now declaring him the greatest fifth-round selection in league history. If you're into the real story, the messy twists they never show in highlight reels, hit that subscribe button. And if you're sticking around to witness this Cleveland quarterback chaos unfold, you'd better already be subscribed. Yeah, you read that correctly. And no, this isn't another recycled hot take from a bored ex-player chasing clicks. This was authentic. It was skepticism melting into respect in real time. And truthfully, it spoke more about Shedeur than it did about Carter, because if you watch that game, and let's be honest, if you're here, you caught every single snap, then you felt it. That quiet shift, that growing realization, that hold on a second, this kid might really be him moment. Carter may have shown up late to the party, but when he did, he brought the cake, the confetti, and a marching band. What changed? Shedeur's performance wasn't flashy, it wasn't packed with viral highlights, and that's exactly what made it remarkable. He was surgical, composed in the pocket, smooth in his reads. unshaken by pressure. The kind of outing you'd expect from a 10-year veteran tuning up for week one, not a rookie fifth rounder stepping onto an NFL field for the very first time. He hit receivers in stride. He took what defenses surrendered. He avoided recklessness. And when protection collapsed, he didn't panic. He adapted. That composure is what flipped Carter's perspective, because Carter's not easily impressed. He's old school. He demands grit, presence, and quarterbacks who don't fold when the moment gets heavy. Shedeur didn't just survive the moment. He commanded it, the turning point. But the moment that sealed it wasn't a pass, a touchdown, or a highlight. It was the way Shedeur handled the media. After the game, veteran reporter Tony G lobbed a jab. Do you think maybe you're getting too much attention for a fifth rounder who hasn't done anything yet? Most rookies would shrink, lash out, or stumble. Shedeur, he looked him dead in the eye, calm and collected, and said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but I've been here before. This isn't new to me." Boom, silence, respect. And you know who was watching from a monitor backstage? Chris Carter. At that instant, the man who once dismissed Shedeur as more name than game saw the truth. This wasn't just a quarterback ready to play. This was a leader. And to his credit, Carter admitted it the next morning. "I got it wrong," he said flatly. "He's the truth. He's got the poise, the arm, the maturity. That's your franchise quarterback." Say what you will about Carter, but it takes guts to own a misfire like that. NFL media rarely concedes when they misjudge a guy, especially one with a famous last name and towering expectations. Carter didn't hedge. He didn't wiggle. He pivoted hard and gave Shedeur the flowers he earned. The bigger picture. Meanwhile, Colin Cowherd, never one to let a moment breathe without inserting his own spin, took a different angle. He didn't question Shedeur's ability. Not at all. He questioned whether Shedeur should even waste energy responding to beat reporters. Don't feed the trolls, just win. And listen, he's not wrong, but he misses the point. Shedeur isn't clapping back out of insecurity. He's setting the tone. He's telling doubters, "I don't need your validation. I already know who I am." That confidence is contagious. Just ask the Browns locker room, where the QB conversation has shifted from who might start to how long can we realistically keep Shedeur off the field. The quarterback room, reality, Dillon Gabriel, erratic. Inconsistent practices, nagging injury concerns, visible frustration. Even Carter floated the idea of trading him, not because he's terrible, but because the writing's on the wall. Joe Flacco, steady veteran mentor, but no long-term solution. Kenny Pickett, still learning, still inconsistent. Shedeur Sanders, rookie, fifth-round pick, overlooked and outperforming them all, which is why Carter's line hit so hard. Best fifth-round pick in NFL history. That's not just praise. That's a torch being passed. Because when you look at how quickly Shedeur has absorbed the playbook, how naturally he commands the huddle, how decisive his throws are, you realize his ceiling is far higher than scouts ever imagined. And now that the national media is waking up, that fifth round label is starting to sound like a joke. Shedeur is playing like a top 10 pick, and the league is noticing. The Browns, Crossroads, Cleveland's front office is sweating. The thing about talent like Shedeur Sanders is simple. You can't bury it forever. You can't chain a star to the bench and expect him to sit quietly. Eventually, his light burns so bright that you either build around him or you stand back and watch another franchise do it. Here's the truth the Browns organization seems unwilling to admit. Shedeur Sanders is no longer just a fifth-round flyer with potential. He is the lifeblood of this team's future. And whether Cleveland chooses to ride that wave or fight against it, that decision is about to define the next 5 seasons. Carter's bold declaration, when Chris Carter dropped his bombshell, best fifth-round pick in NFL history, people gasped. But was it really so outrageous? The league is filled with late-round value picks who blossomed into generational legends. Tom Brady, Richard Sherman, Terrell Davis. And when you're witnessing the dawn of one of those stories, it rarely feels obvious. It feels premature. It feels like too much hype too soon until it's not. until it becomes undeniable, until the raw project suddenly starts outplaying veterans, humiliating defenders in practice, and stacking highlights before the season even begins. That's where Shedeur is right now. Fans feel it, analysts feel it, even opponents are whispering it. They're watching the effortless zip of his throws, the way the offense hums when he's under center, the way he lifts the tempo, the energy, the belief. Defensive players have started giving him credit in post-practice interviews. One linebacker said flatly, "You can disguise something, throw a tricky look at him, he doesn't flinch. He resets and picks you apart." That kind of praise isn't cheap in the NFL, especially not for a rookie, especially not for this rookie who walked in with cameras on him and a last name judged before his first snap. And yet here he is, still standing, still climbing, still flipping every skeptic one rep at a time. The pressure mounts, make no mistake. Every accurate throw he delivers is a problem for someone in Cleveland's front office. It puts pressure on coaches. It disrupts the depth chart. It forces uncomfortable reevaluations of promises made behind closed doors to other quarterbacks in the offseason. It makes them wonder if they're botching this in real time, because here's the thing about momentum. It doesn't care about your timeline. It doesn't wait for your 3-year development plan. It arrives when it wants. And right now it's wearing number 14. This is no longer about patience or letting a kid grow. This is about not wasting the time you don't have. The AFC is brutal. Every game matters. And if you've got a quarterback who can run your offense better than the players ahead of him, even if the script says it shouldn't happen this fast, you start him, period. Forget the contract politics. Forget the media noise. Forget the fanboys clinging to other names. If Shedeur gives you the best chance to win and every shred of evidence says he does, then everything else is just distraction, because windows to contend in the NFL are fragile. They don't wait. And for once, the Browns may actually be standing at the edge of theirs. This roster is loaded. The defense is ferocious. The skill talent is strong. The only missing piece, the quarterback who doesn't just manage a game but commands it. Shedeur might be that quarterback. Scratch that. He already is. He just hasn't been unleashed with the first team at full speed. The crossroads. The players have seen enough. Chris Carter, who built his reputation on being nearly impossible to impress, has seen enough. The fans, they've seen enough. The only ones clinging to experience and seniority are the ones sitting in offices as if those buzzwords can save them from a 2-4 start in October. And here's the news flash. The fans won't wait this time. They've seen the poise, the leadership, the command. They know what a franchise quarterback looks like, and they can tell this is the real thing. So if Shedeur Sanders isn't starting by week 1 and the Browns stumble, the avalanche is coming. Chants from the stands, columns from beat writers, debates across national networks, pressure from the locker room itself. And when that storm hits, the Browns will have no choice but to do what they should have done from the beginning, hand the keys to the rookie who already looks like a seasoned general, because what we're watching right now isn't just a player proving he belongs. It's a narrative being rewritten before our eyes. Shedeur Sanders is no longer just Dion's son. He's not just a 5th-round curiosity. He's not a preseason darling. He's the best quarterback on this roster. And if Cleveland hesitates too long, they won't just miss a moment. They'll miss their future. They won't just miss a moment. They'll miss a movement. So let's end this with a challenge to Cleveland, to the coaches, the executives, the decision makers sitting in their war rooms overanalyzing the obvious. Step aside, get out of your own way. Start Shedeur Sanders, not because the media demands it, not because Chris Carter reversed course, not even because the fans are shouting it from the stands. Start him because he's earned it. Start him because deep down you already know he is your future. So why delay building that future now? That's the story. That's the urgency. That's the storm gathering over Cleveland. And that's the decision that could define everything. Now, if you're still not convinced that Shedeur Sanders is him, then pause. Strip away the draft goggles. Forget the depth charts. Ignore the fantasy sleeper lists and the recycled podcast chatter from 6 months ago. Look at what's happening right now. This kid walked into an NFL building, was buried on the depth chart, denied starter reps, forced to sit behind players with bigger contracts and longer resumes. And instead of folding, instead of sulking, instead of fading into developmental arm status, he flipped the entire quarterback room upside down with poise, with precision, with grace. And that's what has people rattled. It's not just the throws, it's the way he carries himself. This isn't a wide-eyed rookie chasing a dream. This is a man who expects greatness, who steps into the facility like it's already his job, who views the NFL not as a lottery ticket, but as the natural next chapter of his story. And that confidence, that mindset, it's infectious. The offensive line digs in harder when he's under center. Receivers sharpen their routes. The huddle falls silent when he speaks. He's not trying to prove he belongs. He knows he belongs. And that's exactly what Chris Carter saw. Not just a few tight window completions, but as a quarterback who looked like he had been here before, even though he hadn't. You can't coach that. You can't design it into a playbook. You can't purchase it in free agency. You either have it or you don't. And Shedeur Sanders has it. So the question isn't if he could be the Browns starter. The question is, what exactly are they waiting for? We've heard every excuse. He's a rookie. We need to protect him. We can't rush development. He's still learning the playbook. We had a plan in the offseason. Fine, but here's the counterpoint. Plans change when reality changes. You didn't expect him to be this polished, this fast. That's on you. You didn't anticipate him turning scout team reps into scoring drives. That's on you. You didn't think a fifth rounder could outplay your third rounder and your free agent additions. That's on you. But now it's happening. It's real. So what's the play? Pretend it isn't. Start a guy who isn't ready simply because of draft status. Stick with a name instead of riding the moment. That's how franchises lose. That's how windows slam shut. That's how fan bases turn. A young quarterback with this much composure, leadership, and upside falling into your lap in round 5 isn't luck. It's lightning in a bottle. And you don't bury lightning on the depth chart. You put it on the field. You let it strike. Because here's the question no one wants to ask yet. What if this isn't just a hot preseason? What if this is the beginning of something extraordinary? What if the Browns, of all teams, stumbled into the biggest draft steal in years, and the only thing standing in the way of history is their own hesitation? Do you really want to risk losing momentum just to stay loyal to a plan? Do you think fans care about draft politics? Do you think the locker room won't rally around the guy who's clearly the real deal? Go ask the Seahawks how Russell Wilson's story began. Go ask the Patriots about Brady and Bledsoe. Go ask the Chiefs if they regret fast-tracking Patrick Mahomes instead of hiding him on the bench. This league doesn't wait. The real ones rise. The smart teams adapt. But the Browns, they've spent decades hesitating, playing it safe, waiting too long to do what was obviously right until it was already too late. Not this time, not with this kid, because let's be honest, the locker room knows it. The media is waking up to it. The fans already see it. Even Chris Carter, one of football's harshest critics, went from skeptic to believer in a single game. That kind of flip doesn't happen because of hype. It happens because you've seen the truth. So what now? Do the Browns hide behind buzzwords like development and system fit while another season slips away? Or do they tear up the script, trust their eyes, and crown the guy who's already proven he's the best quarterback in the building? Because here's what will happen if they don't. Shedeur keeps shining in practice. Thank you guys. See you next video.